recorded in front of a live digital audience. This is episode 100 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm your master of ceremonies, Dave Roberts. With me, as always, is my partner in crime, writer, blogger, TV personality, and apparently undesirable to all Southern men, Jessica Szilagyi.
Woohoo! Episode 100. That's a big deal. 100.
It is. It is a big deal. We have as many episodes as we have listeners. Joining us is the man behind the curtain. He's the Oz of this show, Eric Cumby.
Hello, hello, hello.
Woo, Eric!
How are y'all today?
You know.
That's a loaded question when you ask Jessica and the Gold Dome is in session.
I mean, it's all right. It's all right. I'm trying to have a better attitude so that, people will take to me.
Matt Lowe couldn't make it. He is down begging the governor for more public land.
Ugh, boo.
And Jonathan is off trying to make a living to put food on the table. I don't know what's wrong with me. I should be going to make a living too, but I'd rather be here with all y'all.
Oh, y'all.
All y'all. So this is the best and worst of our first 99 episodes.
Mostly worst.
Rude. You're fired.
And Eric is the man with all the blackmail. He cuts all the stuff out that really isn't fit to listen. The stuff that get us sued, shut down.
Which reminds me, since Matt's running, he owes me a check. Yeah.
We'll let him know. Send him an invoice.
Yeah. His blackmails too.
That's right.
Well, Matt's got the best line. He's like, I know how to make a budget. I have 7 kids.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but if we can shine that turd up, I mean, that's a hell of an accomplishment. So, Jessica, are you ready?
I think I finally am.
Well, let's go to episode 1.
You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network. Here we go.
I'm not ready. Are we going to talk about this, or we're just going to go?
No, we're going. I mean, this is it.
We're on.
Yeah, we are on.
We have come a long way in 100 episodes, but we joke about how the podcast came to be, and I think I just sent Jonathan and Matt a message. We were all working on All in Georgia at the time, and I just sent them a message and was like, I really want to do a podcast. And Matt was like, yeah, that would be fun. And Jonathan responded with an Amazon link and was like, here's the equipment you guys need, order it, and we'll record next week. And so we did, and we had no plan whatsoever. And I have been a guest on a podcast, but it's a lot easier to be a guest than it is to plan and everything. And I was like, I don't know what to do. What are we doing? I'm not ready.
Well, from reading the old outlines, it was very sparse as far as what subjects we're going to cover and links to stories and everything else. It was certainly the early days of trying to put something out that is listenable.
Well, and Matt and I went back and forth a lot on that because, and not in an argumentative way, but he just felt really strongly about the organic conversation, and I'm a planner because I'm super type A, and we have more in-depth outlines now, but there's episodes where I don't even look at it other than the headline of what the next topic is. I won't look at any of this stuff because we'll just talk, and you never know where the conversation's going to go. So that I do like that part, but And of course, during session, I mean, it's so much easier to just blister our state reps and senators when we know what we're talking about. But I definitely think more research goes into the show now than when we first started, because we've listened to ourselves and we're like, oh, wow, that's terrible.
Well, Lo and I were working on Dobbs' campaign at the time, and we were in a truck heading out to look at a site for a machine gun shoot for a fundraiser. And he told me he's going to do a podcast, and my first question was, a what? Then, who's going to listen to you?
I think we all kind of had that thought, like, okay, well, what if no one listens? Because everyone got on the show, and like before, we were talking, we were like blabbing about who in our lives we know would listen. Like, no one could even come up with a family member who would listen. So we were like, this isn't going to be good. I don't think anyone thought we'd make it to episode 100.
Well, yeah, like I would say probably the same for all of us. My family has heard me pontificate plenty without subscribing. Like, I have to like grab somebody's phone and go and put in "Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong" go here. Like, oh yeah, I'll give it a listen. But we've gotten a really grassroots sort of. Our listeners are more informed. They already have pretty strong opinions, whether we line up with them or not. But these are the folks that already are interested in what's going on in the Gold Dome. These aren't your typical, I'm going to watch Fox News, hear what the president tweeted this morning, and totally ignore what's going on locally.
Sure.
Go
ahead.
I was supposed to say, as far as the outlines go, that's what it is. And I've said a few times on here, it's an outline. We don't script any of this. So when you hear us go on hog trails or anything, it is totally unscripted. And there was a time where we had to re-record, where audio just went bad. There was a technological problem. Can't talk. The listeners pretty well accustomed to that. Where we had to re-record the next evening, and it was tough. It was tough because I know it sounds douchey, but what we do is organic. We kind of bounce off each other.
Sure. And one of the worst things is when you have like a really great joke and someone laughs and then the audio's not there and you're like, well, I can't tell it again and make you laugh like that, or like it's not as funny, Think just,
Yeah, and that's absolutely the truth. And I don't know how like scripted comedians and professional comedians do that every night. There is a saying, like, you hate somebody who stays for 2 shows, because they're more or less doing the same show every night as if they were a band, but they've kind of got to have the same reaction and same inflection and all that every night, or the Friday night show doesn't get the same thing that the Wednesday night show got. Not that I'm comparing myself to a comedian. I could never make a living doing that.
Oh, don't sell yourself short. I know that preschools bring people in all the time.
You know what's funny is, I did a career day for North Paulding High School, and most of the classes were pretty, they're all going to college. They don't really care about an AC guy. Then the class that laughed the hardest and asked if I was a comedian was a special ed class. Yeah, I know my people.
Oh, dear.
So I have a future. It's not bright, but I got a future. So we're certainly not going in order here. Here is and again, Jessica and I have never met, but we hadn't even interacted when I came on the show. So, on episode 29, I come in, and it's the time Dave Roberts hijacked the show, and it went so smooth. Well, perfect. No awkward pauses with the new guy. That's great.
Well, I mean, I'm going to throw Matt under the bus here and say that it was his fault because, I mean, I don't want to spoil the next clip, but, I mean, go ahead and play it. Matt, you're the host.
Oh, I keep forgetting. I'm terrible at this hosting thing. Especially since I haven't read much of these stories.
Well,
Okay, so...
because I haven't read any of the stories.
I mean, so not only is it a new guy, and plus, like, you guys are good friends, and so, I mean, you have, like, inside jokes and a vibe and everything, and I don't know, it was just awkward, and then Matt didn't read the stories the one time he was supposed to be the host, and he kept forgetting.
Yeah, that got cured pretty quickly. Wait. Like, Matt, you're the host. Oh! Yeah, that's really difficult because I don't do any prep work. So, you know, we were usually scheduled to record like 8 o'clock. And
Hold on. Before you, it was 7 o'clock. And everyone missed it like every single week. At like 6:30, everyone's like, I need another hour. It used to be 7. So anyway, you go.
so I go up to my office, get everything set up. You're set up at your desk, and at 7:55, we would get a message on Facebook saying, "I'm heading home now." Okay, and then at 7:15, we'd hear,
You mean
"I'm booting
8:15?
up my computer."
Yep.
And then at 8:30, we would hear, "What's wrong with this damn thing? Hold on, I got an update." So it would be an hour in before we actually hit the record button.
Mm-hmm.
We miss you, Matt. Hey. So someone said, I know what Matt adds. I said, what's that? He goes, a laugh track.
Right.
Exactly, I know, right? We should build a digital Matt. And just every time Jessica and I pause, just go ahead and hit the button for I know, right?
We have the technology.
We can rebuild him. He'd be like the $6 man.
I'd say more like the 60-cent man, but
Dang, Eric.
This is what happens when your audio gets corrupted and we have to re-record. You get to be the punching bag. Much like Casey Cagle.
I think it would open the door for something that Casey Cagle, who lost terribly, overwhelmingly, was defeated massively by Brian Kemp on July 25th, 2019. One of his campaign platforms.
So, Jessica, Casey has been a favorite target of this show.
Always, and I still take any opportunity to remind people that he lost in 157 of 159 counties in Georgia. They overwhelmingly rejected him. But we did not reject you as our host. In fact, I mean, I don't know if people remember, but you actually submitted an essay.
Well, you were being funny, and it has, you know, as somebody who has to put sort of my bio out for a lot of the Chamber of Commerce and other things, other organizations that I'm a member of, I have to kind of put a bio out there, so it didn't seem odd. And you were just impressed that I did it. I just figured you didn't know who the hell I was.
Well, that's true.
So what the hell does an AC guy know about politics? But in that, towards the end of the Matt experiment at host, you asked me to reflect on the first episode.
I did. Well, as I'm sure you're aware, this is coming towards the close of our show. Dave, how do you feel about the first week on the show?
I had a lot of fun. I really appreciate the opportunity. It sounds like a job interview. Well, thank you for the opportunity.
What do you think are going to be your biggest flaws on this show?
Oh, me. I'm a walking flaw. Here's the thing, and I've told Matt this before. You guys didn't know that we went on like long strolls together on Mondays listening to this podcast, and I was already talking back to you. You guys just couldn't hear me.
So some might say you've been auditioning this for like half your life.
I mean, this is my American Idol. I mean, this is my moment. I mean, I've got tears coming down my face. I'm waiting for someone to come in with a bouquet.
You're our Kelly Clarkson.
I mean, really, to literally dozens of people.
That's awesome.
So what do you feel like you bring to the show?
Comedic timing. Matt has none. If you'll recall, Matt told me he was going to debate you. And I told him, I said, Matt, when you're losing, and you will because she's smarter than you, I said, say, Jessica, you ignorant slut. Now, how does Matt deliver the line? And I remember this clearly because I was out in a coat. It was cold outside. I was listening to the podcast, working the grill, and you beat Matt on a point. And he's like, well, I guess so. Well, a friend of mine said to call you an ignorant slut. Matthew, that is not what I said. I can write them, but I can't deliver them for you, buddy.
It's still just as funny now. Oh my god. Well, unfortunately, Dave, the job we were actually interviewing for was host, and it sounds like, we know it's not going to be Matt.
Right?
So maybe you can come back next week and audition as host.
I kind of had a vision about the host thing, but Matt kind of shot that down with his performance. But it would be a version of The Five where everybody takes a different news story, introduces it. But if you have to give him like a 5-minute lead in a prompt in order to read something that you wrote for him.
And Dave's fired.
I like him. 1-to-1, he stays.
Thanks for coming on the show, Dave. See you never.
So, I mean, the one thing you cannot take away from poor Matt is he would get roasted on the show and laugh just as hard as the rest of us. I mean, he really took it like a champ.
If I don't say mean things about you, I don't like you.
Well, you must really like Matt.
Well, the funny thing is, like I said, you'd never heard me before, and we got on because we chat before the show, and you heard my voice and you started laughing.
Yes, I did. It was The Price is Right. I felt like I was on a game show.
Up next. Yeah, at the end you win some steak knives. Yes, I'm old enough to remember when they gave steak knives and stuff away at the end of a game show instead of cash.
Lord
have mercy. Well, we followed it up with one of the more infamous conversations, and this was, the show after it, and we're still trying to establish kind of my personality on the show, and I got into to making leather. How about you, Matthew?
I rarely carry cash. In fact, if I have cash and my wife sees it in my wallet, she's like immediately questioning, why do you have cash? So
where are you going for lunch?
Right? It's all those ones. Why do they smell funny? But now I do carry cash.
I love the delay in that too. I really do.
Well, I wasn't really paying attention, and I just
wasn't really paying attention.
no.
Right? All right. So, Jessica, that's your warning. You got to pay attention. We'll get sideways on you.
Well, I'll tell you, I think of cash as important as carrying my gun every day. You never know when something bad's going to happen. You never know when, sound like Alex Jones, 1776. You never know when something bad's going to happen. The grid goes down, or example from a few weeks ago, I popped in to grab a couple of things at the grocery store, and their system went down. They couldn't take any credit cards. So you've got a bunch of people who are losing their minds because they can't buy their groceries. And I'm in there for like 3 things because I hate being in any store. And I was able to walk up to customer service, peel off a little cash, and leave. While the rest of them were acting like they're not going to be able to feed their kids because their credit cards won't be taken, or EBT card or whatever else they were paid with because the system was down.
Yeah, I
EBT.
I have to get a dig in.
Plunder card.
there are a lot of places I wouldn't want to be without any cash. I mean, what if something happens, or you need to catch a ride, or I don't know. There's just so many things I feel like cash could get you out of, and I would hate to be without it.
Oh, absolutely. And if even just being nice, if somebody stops on the side of the road and you need a hand, be able to peel off a 20 for them. So, the
All your money's sticky? You keep saying peel off.
It's that stripper money.
God!
Matt, you're rolling better than I am. I'm not getting strippers 20s.
Yeah, right?
I got a pocket full of change. Watch her pick them up. Make it rain. I make it hail. This used to be such a classy show.
I'm like sweating in here. I'm laughing so hard. Oh my god.
I think we're going to snort.
I wish I could reach the fan from here. Oh my god.
And the dog came in to check on Jessica.
Right.
Because I'm like falling over laughing and everything, making all kinds of noise. Yeah.
Now that we've covered the cash story from every angle.
So how much change do you keep in your pocket?
Roll of quarters.
That's dangerous.
take a roll of pennies and throw it on the stage and wait. The thing is that, Jessica, it's your reaction that's cracking me up. I sound like I'm sitting here laughing at myself. I'm laughing at your reaction to me.
I'm sorry. That was classic.
If I could bottle that up and bring it into every episode.
Oh my word. I mean, and what is not in this clip is that at the end of the show when we were wrapping up, it just crossed my mind again, and I just started laughing. And when we're on Google Hangouts, we can see each other, and so I was trying so hard to keep it contained, and Dave was talking about something else, something serious, and I mean, I was losing it, and Matt was watching me lose it, so he started laughing, and he was laughing really hard too, not even know, and I knew he didn't know why I was laughing, which made me laugh harder, and finally Dave was like, what is going on? And I was like, I was just thinking about you making it hail, and we all lost it again. I mean, it was one of the funniest moments ever on the show.
And we were talking about something semi-serious. We were talking about houses falling apart in New Orleans.
That's what it was.
And we're talking about people losing their homes, and Jessica starts laughing again, like, what? What did I say? She goes, you're making it hail.
It was just too much.
Jessica wanted to go up to the club.
That's right. Throw a roll of pennies and wait.
I'd get thrown out of one of those places so fast for doing that.
Well, it's pretty dang offensive. I mean,
hey,
gosh.
a buck is a buck.
Oh, okay.
So that is the highlight of the Dave Roberts era on this show, and it happened on the second episode, my first episode as host. It's been all downhill since there. So, going back to a conversation we alluded to earlier, Jessica and Matt had a debate on public land. And, of course, Matt is a philosophical anarchist who believes the state should own land.
Okay. The other thing, too, is that, I didn't really want to debate public land because, first of all, I knew I was going to crush Matt. And second, I know we were, neither one of us are moving on it. And we would fight about it in our chat group all the time with Jonathan. And it would just be me and Matt going back and forth making digs like, well, I guess you just aren't consistent and I guess you just don't understand and blah, blah, blah. And so I knew it was going to be a little bit tense, but it was Jonathan's idea. And so we did it.
What makes it the proper role of government in a practical stance?
It's not.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a break now. And when we come back, Matt is going to defend food stamps. So.
Oh, God. It was just...
And the great thing is Jonathan's dry sense of humor at the end of it.
Yes, and the other thing, too, was that I don't know how long into the episode it was, but Matt was like, I didn't know you were going to take the whole proper role of government stance. And I was like, well, that's my stance. Like, that's where I'm coming from. It's like, well...
Yeah, my debate would be a lot easier if you would go ahead and tell me all your points beforehand.
Oh, goodness.
But at the same time, I feel like he should have known that was going to be the stance you were going to take. I mean, that's pretty much the stance you take on everything.
I think so.
It's public land. It's land that government owns. How in the hell was it not going to go to the role of government? Matt's going to run for office and get in a debate and then go, well, I didn't know you were going to go there with it. Good. Matt's an intelligent, reasonable person. He just there's one section of government that he likes because it benefits him. So that's everybody's libertarian until it's time to do libertarian stuff. Until it's your food stamps that take away.
Oh.
So we had political candidates on the show, and again, one of the low spots, just because the audio was so poor, we had Allison Feliciano, who ran as a Democrat for my district, HD 19, and she didn't like the story we referenced in the outline.
Of course, but when any sort of article is written, it's written with the headline, I click on it, right? I mean, let's just be honest. And so we don't know what was beforehand, or so. Is it justified if I were to hear the whole conversation? Maybe I would say yes, but we're not privy to that. Just for what I've seen of him and all the people that kind of flock around him, he flocks around, they all seem to have the same posture. Let's just say that.
So I totally agree with you about I actually wrote the article the one that we're referencing here, and listen here, lady.
She didn't read the byline.
My name is on it. My name was on it.
Anybody who comes on the show, I advise them to listen to a couple episodes. Know what you're getting into.
Mm-mm-mm.
And if you can hear the clicking, that's Jessica PMing me with, oh my God, she just questioned my article.
Yeah, because it wasn't even a good reason to question it. But
because you weren't there for the entire conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she stuck to her guns on it. I mean, This was in reference to the article with Sarah Riggs Amico saying that she should be the lieutenant governor because there's no way that Kemp could get through 4 years in the Pound Me Too movement era. That is...
These are still our opinions and not those of All on Georgia.
And guess what starts rolling in?
And the slander lawsuits start rolling in. Before we go any further, these opinions are ours and not necessarily those of All on Georgia. Dave,
however,
back to the show.
Any medical official would agree with me. And there's Jessica in her role guarding the dignity of All on Georgia.
I squeeze it tight.
These are our opinions, not necessarily those of All on Georgia, and certainly not those of any All on Georgia reporter not commenting on the show.
So, the next one is my second favorite Dave clip of the entire show. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, Eric, get your button ready. You, Peachtree City. You're all scumbags. And the city council member who was a officer in the Army, you can either vote for this or resign your commission and hand back your retirement, because you cannot both support and defend the Constitution and support measures like this. You are either a traitor to your office as an officer, or you support something like this. And if you sign off on this, if you vote for this, you are a piece of personally.
And that's in a professional opinion, and we would love to be your first lawsuit.
Right?
Yes. My name is David Roberts. You come and get me in Paulding County. Go ahead and pull me in front of one of these judges in Paulding County, because you have to sue me where I am. Bring it.
Maybe they'll retain Chris Severe.
And you know what? I will string it along and make sure that city attorney bills you for the maximum number of hours before I beat you, as to bankrupt the city of Peachtree City for electing your dumb for bringing this up.
And then, when it's done, we'll come back and countersue you with a civil suit for the problems, for pain and suffering.
And I will take one of those little golf carts you drive around and shove it up your ass. The fact that anyone could actually think this is a legitimate piece of legislation or ordinance to put before a governing body is disgusting.
Oh, I love it. Eric, get your button ready.
I have to really work on coming out of my shell.
Yeah.
The button broke on that episode. episode.
Too much.
Yeah, some episodes are easier to edit than others.
Yeah.
Some you can just lay the audio up, clean it up a little bit, and roll it out. Other times you have to spend hours listening for all the F-bombs.
And inevitably, I miss a few. And you come back and like, oh, you missed one. I'm like, At some point, I just get used to hearing all the and stuff. I'll bleep myself out. Don't worry.
You're only making work for yourself. That's fine.
Goodness.
Not that this episode's not going to be heavily, very dense on the back end anyway. Well, and every once in a while, I get on a soapbox, and there are things, and I spent a lot of time in Fayette County, so I know who these people are. So yeah, I was fired up.
You don't say.
We did not see that coming.
It's funny because Jessica and Matt just backed out of the way. Okay, we're gonna let Dave take this one because we don't want to get sued.
Yes, exactly.
Ultimately, I'd like to credit our commentary on it. That ordinance allowing the city to sue anybody who insults it was defeated, and it was a huge turnout at that city council meeting. And I think that this show is largely responsible for that.
I agree.
So you have to be on the cutting edge. You need to listen to the show. So we get to learn about people like Andy Welch when listening to Jessica.
Kemp's signature, and guess who sponsored that effing bill? Andy Welch. So guess what, Andy? Your bill will be the first one at the courthouse steps that we're lined up to freaking sue your ass about.
He's out. Andy's a lawyer. He'll represent you suing him over his bill.
I'd rather gargle glass while tap dancing barefoot on Legos than do anything that helps him.
Rather gargle broken glass while tap dancing on Legos.
Well, I think I made my point.
Vividly. And everybody listening knew exactly what you thought of Andy Welch and his piece of legislation. And I think this one was the government-appointed board to approve journalists. Or give a seal of approval on journalists. Is that right?
Yep, pretty much.
Well, we don't all...
And then after that, it gets better. Because then the city of Statesboro hired Andy Welch as a consultant.
Mm-hmm. And then he unquit.
Because he doesn't like his kids that much.
Right.
Well, we don't only cover politics on the show. We got a pretty good biology lesson from Matt Lowe.
See the same thing at Hooters at Walmart because the little hussies are running around with their booties out. I mean...
Yep, I've got a freshman girl.
So, I mean, if guys are going to look, they're going to look. I don't understand this whole,
Yeah, but here's the thing. Apparently they're not looking because they don't like boobs anymore.
I don't understand that.
You're fighting genetic programming there. When we went from walk around on all fours, to upright, we needed something as men to kind of clue us in as to when the female may be ready to breed because, she's not walking around with a baboon, like a red ass baboon now, We
what?
should probably cut that. You ever watch monkeys, man? You watch Discovery Channel or something?
You are not cutting that. You have to leave it in there and you have to leave my response because I'm trying to we're not in the same room, so I'm trying to picture what you're drawing and
No, so all right. You've watched Discovery Channel, right?
Yes, I watched Discovery.
And you watch baboons around mating time, right?
I know what you're talking about. I just
because this giant red ass that's sticking out there, right? So when women stopped walking around on all fours and went upright, there had to be another clue. That clue was breast, right? We're genetically programmed to like, and now this new millennial beta male is like, oh, I don't like this.
But you know,
The part I like is Matt didn't think you understood physiology, and that he needed to explain it to you.
I got nothing on that one.
I hate to admit it. That's another line I gave Matt
Lord.
when he said what you guys were going to discuss, and I gave him an evolutionary lesson about biology, and I think he was kind of apprehensive because it's natural to be a little uncomfortable using that terminology around a lady.
Mm-mm.
But it was one of his better moments.
It was pretty funny.
And the fact that, no, you need to leave that in.
Yeah.
You did that to me a couple times. Like, you cut that out. No, you said it. It stays.
So, are you trying to help him get elected, or are you trying to sabotage him from within?
Yeah. No, Matt would be really, really good in that role. The advantage we have is that only about, I don't know, I'd say less than 1,000 people actually know Matt Troll. The vast majority of the electorate doesn't know who he is. So if he can somehow keep the crazy in the tent until May and probably July in the runoff, he'll be fine. His problem is I need to shut his Facebook down. Because he gets on his anarchist stuff, and I'm like, dude, stop. Like, you realize you're running as a Republican, right? But, Jessica, what's your opinion of women voters?
What about women?
And when it comes to like stuff in the
Hold on.
county, what?
Women are totally the demise of this country.
Uh-oh. See there?
When women were given the right to vote, that's when you saw a shift from fact and principle to emotion and social programs and helping everybody. It's totally the problem. I mean, I love and exercise my right to vote, but there are a lot of women in this world who just dang, they just have really missed the mark.
Whoops.
Whoops.
Might be. But I still stand by that statement.
You know, when Jimmy Kimmel was funny and he was on the Man Show, he and Adam Carolla went out with a petition to end women's suffrage. And they walked up to people, would you like to sign a petition to end women's suffrage? And they said, women are suffering? They said, women are suffraging every day. And they got thousands of signatures until someone walked up and go, do you understand what you're signing? Suffrage is your right to vote. Back before he decided he was an activist and went prime
Of course.
time. Yeah.
Of course.
Back when he was funny. I guess there's a peak where a comedian's funny and then he decides he's important.
Ugh. Great.
On the same episode, we get another little gem from Matthew.
Yeah.
Take the Neil Bortz approach to offending people.
Yeah. Well, offend them all, let God sort them out.
Did you ever listen to Bortz, Jessica?
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody who's a regular listener of our podcast.
Name names.
Stop naming names. They all have to be cut.
Why?
I don't know. It just feels like the right thing to do.
No, you don't.
Okay.
And I told him that I thought we were going to have a show where there was a debate, more or less, between you and I over something that we disagreed on.
Who? Us?
Yeah,
Me or him?
me and you.
Me?
Yes.
I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you as if you're only looking at me and not Jonathan.
Me and you, Jessica.
Okay, I understand.
And he was a Bort's listener, and he said, "Dude, you totally have to, like, in the middle of it, call her an ignorant slut." And then he was like, she won't get it. Do you get that reference?
From SNL, Jan, you ignorant slut.
No, okay, so I think it was Bort's and Bob Barr.
Really?
Yeah, they were having a debate, and Bort's like on the radio. He's like, "Bob, you ignorant slut." Hilarious.
Yeah. It's even funnier is Matt didn't get the reference. He didn't get the reference when Bort said it either because he grew up, Pentecostal, and wasn't allowed to watch things like Saturday Night Live.
Mm-mm-mm.
So he had no frame of reference, and he delivered the line so poorly that it was almost offensive. Like he said, I should call you an ignorant slut. You're like, why? He doesn't even know me. I mean, not that you aren't called that and worse by people trying to defend elected officials, but damn.
For real.
I tried trying to give him a funny line, and Matt just botched it.
Not surprised.
So we need to recognize, of course, we hear Giles in there. And Giles really was really good at the one-liners, and his humor was dry, and it would take a lot of times it would take the listener 2 or 3 seconds to really catch up to what he was saying. And Giles kind of ended up as the host with episode 1 and through 28, and you guys had a pretty good chemistry going, and I came in and ruined it. But he ultimately decided to step back. And then, Jessica, you tried being the host for an episode.
I hated it.
Which is funny because a lot of the content you come up with, and with the outline and the points and everything else is a lot of this is that ultimately that anybody hears out of my mouth is from you. Obviously, not making it hail.
Of course not. I did not put that on the outline.
Yeah, that was not in the outline. Hey, Dave, go to strippers. But Jonathan is as the where are they now? Jonathan is working in a trade, putting groceries on the table for his kid and doing good, and you can still catch Jonathan on any of the threads that you see on All on Georgia, on Jessica's stuff, and Giles still has his biting commentary, and he really a smart, witty guy, and if you're not accustomed to dry humor, it'll fly right past you. Okay, Jessica, I guess you have nothing else to say about Giles. I sucked the oxygen out of the room.
I hope he's doing well.
And of course, Lowe was on the majority of episodes. I think he stepped back around show 80 to build his house, his mansion. And of course, he says it's not a mansion. It's only 6,000 square feet, 9 bedrooms, with 2 master suites. As I live in a house that could have been completely wiped out by a single pine tree. But Matt's doing good. He's down to the Capitol as we record this. stumping for public lands and hunters' rights and all that stuff. And I think he will sit down for the State of the State that happened as this plays last Thursday. And we do miss Matt for sure.
Of course, when he visits.
Oh yeah, and hopefully when the house actually gets built, he says he's going to have an office, a private space where we won't hear a 2-year-old screaming because it's bedtime, or Fred barking at a squirrel, or everything else that goes in a house full of 9 kids. Well, 7 kids, and it's about to be 6 because his oldest is about to ship off to the Air Force. But I don't think the 18-year-old was the one screaming, not wanting to go to bed.
Probably not.
But by the time he finishes that house, it could be 9.
It could. I think she's got an IED in. Yes, I said
Wait.
IED, not IUD. You try to knock me up again? Boom.
Oh, God. Good thing we're at the time limit because it's time to wrap this up.
So, Eric, what is it like trying to take this circus and put it into something that's listenable?
Well, it's a challenge. Well, no, it's not a challenge. Especially, it's gotten a lot easier because I've gotten better at editing them, and y'all have kind of gotten into the groove. So, there's a lot of episodes where I just put the audio together, listen through it, everything sounds good, put the opening on it, put the closing on it, done. Of course, there's always a few choice outtakes that don't make the show that go in the folder labeled blackmail. But
there was a closing that we had to re-record.
No, there's a closing you had to re-record.
I had to re-record. Okay, so it was the day after Thanksgiving, and I thought we were going to record like 2:00 in the afternoon. So I was hanging out drinking bourbon. So we recorded at 8:00 that night. By that time, I'm sloshed. And the back half of the show, you don't hear me say much of anything besides introduce stories because I just can't keep up with the conversation anymore. And now it comes time for the close. Now it comes time for the host time. Now I can do this with a decent buzz. This was beyond a decent buzz. So I mumble through the closing, and the next morning I wake up to a message like, "What the hell was that?" It was unintelligible. So I had to, 2 days after Thanksgiving, that Saturday, re-record the closing instead of "Ugh."
And in your defense, you had been deathly ill right before that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I had a pleural effusion and pneumonia, and had been in the hospital. I probably shouldn't have been drinking like I hadn't been in the hospital. So, anybody who's listened to the show can hear Matt open a beer can, glass, ice clinking in the glass, stuff like that, and which is fine, because typically we're not actually drinking for a buzz, unless I meet somebody for lunch and there's several beers at lunch, and then I come home and record. But so yeah, there was that. So there's that blackmail material that's out there. I think I stopped recording before I went to the bathroom, and you can hear it echoing off the hardwood floors. That's so professional. So, Eric, do you have any closing thoughts for the week?
The legislature's in session, unfortunately, so, no man's life, liberty, or property is safe while the legislature's in session.
Amen. Jessica?
I'm just excited for another 100.
Absolutely. I actually do have a couple. First of all, we need to mention, if you like what you heard, and this is probably the episode to share with your friends, the what they can expect from week to week. 1 or 2 gems a week. Sift through an hour to laugh for a couple minutes. It is Martin Luther King Day as this drops, so this is the perfect way to spend that off day with your family, is to shut everybody up and play the podcast. week before last, as this drops, we got the news that Neil Peart died, who was the drummer for Rush. An immensely private man, one of the most brilliant percussionists ever to sit behind the trap in a rock and roll band. So I know a lot of, I'm a dork. When girls are getting into boy bands and stuff in middle school and high school, guys are getting into stuff like Rush, and his lyrics he was a lyricist also, a really smart guy, an Ayn Rand fan, and he will certainly be missed. So we had a really funny episode followed up by Guess Who's Dead? Way to drag it down, Dave.
Yeah. Cheers to another 100. They'll be better than this.
I'm like dragging an anchor, aren't I? The ship's trying to head out to port. You're just dragging me along. So, for Eric Cumby, for Jessica Salaji, I'm Dave Roberts. See ya on 101.